Hi, folks. This is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord and Richards, and I'm thrilled to be talking to you today about how you can become financially independent from a biblical point of view. And today we're going to look in this particular episode into the book of Proverbs and hear from the richest man of his time, Solomon, about wealth accumulation and how to be rich. Listen to what Solomon says in Proverbs 11, verses 24 to 26. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want or lack. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered. The people curse him who holds back grain, but a blessing is on the head of him who sells it. So 3 somewhat cryptic proverbs, but I think as we unfold them in this particular segment, it's going to become clear to us what it really means to be rich. When we think of wealth accumulation, particularly as I'm advising clients like you every single day, folks are concerned. Some folks are really scared about what's going on in the world, in the markets, in the economy, wars, market crashes, high inflation, and on and on. And they're concerned that events like that, which are out of your control, are going to mess up your retirement. And so audiences I'm speaking to all the time are shaking their heads saying, what can we do about all this? This is a concern to me. Well, often we seem to center in on the performance of our investments as the key to wealth accumulation. We sometimes think that it's primarily about holding back as much as we can, keeping it all in our savings and investment accounts in order to produce wealth. We all know that it's wise to save early. We talk to young people and we say, look, the miracle of compounding is in your favor if you're blessed with a long life. If you start investing when you're very young, over the years, you're going to see compounding work in your favor instead of against you if you're saving and investing. However, there's a kind of wisdom that actually should encourage us to take that money out of those accounts in order to increase riches. You say, well, what does that mean? Pulling money out. Does that mean I become a spendthrift? Well, as you'll see in other episodes that we'll be talking about, and I hope you'll be checking these out, we're going to talk about the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And one of the differences between being rich and wealthy is that people who have true wealth, people who know what it means to accumulate what really is valuable, are doing so much more than just investing and working on their returns. This kind of wisdom encourages us to take the money out of those savings and investment accounts and do something entirely different with it. Remember, Solomon was one of the wealthiest men in history, not to mention the wealthiest man in history up to his time. And he says that the one who gives freely gets richer, while the one who holds back ends up suffering. Now, I've heard it sometimes put this way: give to get back from God in order to give. Well, that may or may not be how God chooses to work with you. God is going to make sure all of your needs are taken care of. And the principle that we're talking about here about giving might have some real clear exceptions as well. For example, it's been shown that people who are just sort of ridiculously generous may have cognitive decline, right? They're just giving their money away without any real reason to do so. They become gullible because of cognitive decline. Some spread their wealth around. They actually are giving it away. They're spending it on friends in order to garner favor and make more friends. That's not what we're talking about. But from an eternal perspective, this principle of giving in order to get richer is sound. The kind of giving that we're talking about is bringing blessing. That's what he talks about in the second proverb. He says, when we bring blessing, we'll be enriched. Bringing blessing, which results in being enriched. There are greater riches, though, than just money. Sure, you may be enriched financially. God may allow that to come into your life. But what about relationships? What about spiritual growth in your own life? The love, joy, and peace that come from God's Spirit when we're controlled by Him and when we follow His leading to give as He directs. In the early church, we find in the book of Acts, they were tremendously generous, and the phrase is they didn't think of anything as being their own. It doesn't mean that they didn't own property, but it simply meant that they viewed the resources in their disposal as a stewardship from God to be used by God for His glory. And also, it is often the case that when we water, in other words, we take what's ours and give to bless and enrich others, we are watered by God. That's what the Proverbs says. One who waters will himself be watered. Blessings financially come. God's favor in business and investments come. All kinds of things come into alignment, not just because we're giving, but because we're the kind of person being controlled by God who's giving. And then there's this last proverb that the people will curse those who hold back grain, but a blessing is on the head of those who sell it. Marie Antoinette, famous aristocrat, was known for saying, "Let them eat cake," just referring to giving the people the very lowest, not the kind of cake we enjoy, like at a wedding, when the people were starving. The people will curse leaders who do not put the well-being of their followers ahead of their own. We see this problem is rampant through the leadership of our country. Politicians are known for speaking out of both sides of their mouth in order to garner favor, rather than putting the interests of the people whom they serve first. For example, there are groups around this world, organizations, cartels, who manipulate prices by control of supply. They hold back grain. So OPEC, for example, frequently is seen holding back oil supply in order to keep themselves rich, right? They say it's just good business, but they don't realize what they're doing on the backs of ordinary people. When you have the power to increase supply and decrease the price, you should do it. And when you don't do it, the Bible says the people will curse you for it. So there is a kind of wealth or being rich which comes from giving away. It's a kind of riches that people who don't understand, who have a kind of a self-focus, who don't have a God focus. Well, we're talking to people every single day whom I think really are generous at heart, but they're concerned and maybe their giving is being hindered because they're not sure they're going to be able to successfully navigate retirement. And so they hold back out of perhaps fear. Well, what we're doing is we're helping people like you achieve financial independence through a process, a comprehensive financial independence review that will help you determine and know if you're ready to retire right now or in the future as you plan. All it takes is a conversation with me, a conversation with my team to get the process going and have a simple conversation that will leave you with peace